it's like, it's like song, 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 like, and then all of a sudden, okay, all my drums are done. What did I just do?
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time in the channel, hit subscribe right now.
Starlight disappearing, night after day on the run.
Keith, thank you so much for your time today. Exciting times. Voyage is gonna be out April 21st. So in just like 2 weeks or so when we're talking, that must be a lot of fun. Or maybe for you it's more like a finally kind of feel, because let's be honest, if things had gone completely your way, the second album would have followed the first one a little bit faster than where we are today. So is that like the feeling with you right now, like just like finally, or are you still kind of like, I'll believe it when I see it, when it actually comes out in a few weeks?
No, it's, yeah, I mean, I think it's more of a, the finally part is that we actually recorded it back in September. I think it was September. And so that process is more of the waiting game. I mean, we all dealt with the COVID thing, and yeah, of course we wanted to, we were pleased with how with In Another Time went, and we did a tour in the UK and Europe, and we felt like we had a little momentum, and it was like, let's keep that going. And then of course, a few months later, everything got shut down.
Exactly.
And, so, that kind of shut down life, not just the band. And so once life kind of came back together and we were able to get the band back together, the waiting game, we got the record recorded. And so, we're excited that we're getting close to that it finally coming out.
When that first album, In Another Time, came out, a lot of people were kind of taken by surprise by this. Like, not every, that was the first time that the band's name was more broadly out there. We saw the album in top albums of the year lists almost everywhere. It was a really, really strong album. Maybe a two-parter just to kind of close off that backward-looking point. But number one, were you like taken by surprise by the reaction to this album? And then second, when you go into this, do you feel that pressure?
Yeah, I think we were. I mean, the way everything kind of came together was, we did do Citadel, and we made that single Citadel and 11 years on the other side, and that single got us the record deal with Metal Blade. So someone heard, one of the reps in Europe heard that on Bandcamp and signed the band from just having a single out, and we had only played a handful of shows, and so we were surprised that happened, and then we put out the record, and people, it really connected with a lot of people, and I don't totally know what to attribute that to. We made the best record that we thought we did the best that we could, and people liked it. I guess we do make our records a little bit different than most bands, or have to this point, being all analog, no Pro Tools, no computers, that kind of stuff, and so maybe that's what connected with. I don't know, but the second part of that question was,
does that mean that you felt the pressure making the second one?
Initially, speaking for myself, I did feel the pressure, but when COVID hit, and it was like 2 years off, and with Russ living in England, we didn't get to be in the same room for over 2 years.
Right.
And I felt like with Voyage, it was just about reestablishing who we were, rather than just, the pressure was kind of off. It was more about, okay, we've gone back down to zero. It's kind of like starting over more than feeling it. in some ways it doesn't feel like a second record.
The band is, from any way you look at it, like unapologetically retro, in the music you write, the way that you record, the artwork, everything, and people really, really embrace that these days. It's almost like, yes, there was an adventure rock emerging in the 70s, but you guys almost play a music that a new generation has like a romanticized view of what that was like, but in a modern way. And it's interesting that when you guys play shows, it's really not only people in their 50s and their 60s that really like your band. There's a lot of young people that love your music. There's even a whole new scene almost with bands that play similar music to that, and you got yourselves obviously, but then you've got the Witch Hazels and the Hallises and the Haunts, being part of like this whole new. And I know it's kind of ironic calling it a new wave or a fresh wave with this massively retro aspect to it, but there really is like this new wave or a new scene coming out, and being like right in the middle of that. That must be kind of cool too, when you kind of take a step back and see just how this whole thing is happening.
Yeah, it is cool. I think that the movement, or it wasn't like something we were trying to join that, or we were trying,
right.
The band started with Russ and Cindy wanting to write records together or writing songs together, and that's what they gravitated to. And then I think that maybe some other people, everyone's trying to find their own way,
right,
musically, and maybe it's like, this has been done, so we're going to try to do this, or we want to focus more on this, or this, everyone's gotten to this sound, so we're trying to do, so everyone's just always trying to find their own way. And that was our way, like from the get-go. It was, we were, we wanted to record to tape, and we wanted to use vintage instruments, and we wanted to use, like all the vintage gear in the studio. And try to capture the music the way they did it in the 70s. It's just interesting that there is a whole collection of bands that are kind of doing that, because we didn't do that to be a part of that. It was just like that's what we wanted to do. But it's nice to be named amongst those great bands that you just named.
When you talk about playing vintage instruments in that early sound, like we hear influences in this record, but from a music perspective, when we zoom in onto your drumming as well, there's obviously that NWOBHM influence, and I think especially when we listen to songs like, was it Falling Wizard and Never Look Back, feels like Clive Burr has had some impact on you. Who would you say for you have been those drummers that inspired you through your own journey?
I grew up in the era of the arena rock bands, so I was like way into like Rush and Yes and Genesis and like like early on, and my first band I loved was Kiss, so like Kiss and Rush were the progression when I was and then from there it kind of branched out. Yeah, I've always liked the drummers that kind of let the like that they don't have to be front and center. I think Clive Burr is a good example, where the guitar player is a single. I would rather keep a groove than like do all the great, it's like, I mean, I have a little bit of that, but I also have a lot of Rolling Stones in me too, to where, I'm just happy to keep a beat and let the other stuff happen. But, rock drummers like Ian Pace or, like I said, Neil Peart or Phil Collins and Chester Thompson, when they were double drumming in Genesis, that was great.
Right.
And Tommy Aldridge is another good one that, I can always go back to, and I always love his playing.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, none of the individuals you just called out were Kiss members, but you did mention that Kiss was one of your first loves. I think that about 75% of artists that I interview, let's say that are over 35 years old, tell me that Kiss was their first love. So for you, what is it that made Kiss the best band in the world when you were younger?
Well, I mean, I am plus over 35 years old. So, Kiss was huge when I was like 10 years old, and I was young enough to like buy into the spectacle of it, and I almost questioned, did they have superpowers? Because I was like,
right.
Enough. They were like rock and roll superheroes to me.
Right.
So a part of that was the spectacle, and I think it had more to do with the spectacle than the music, and I think I was just young enough to where I'm like, wow, man, look at the, and back then, of course, there's not internet, and you're just looking like at pictures of magazines, or
right.
you open Kiss Alive, and it has the big stage, with the tigers coming up underneath the drum riser and all that, and the fireworks, and that was just that. I think the spectacle of it is what really drew me in, and and as far as Peter Criss, I don't know what it was. There was just something about having a lot of drums and that kind of thing that was just exciting to a young kid.
I wanted to ask you about, specifically Galantia Part 2, the song. You kind of go back to the world of Citadel of the first album, one of the standout tracks. What's the process for a band to write a quote-unquote sequel? Like what's that process like? Is that very similar to other songs, and just throughout the process of organic creation you go like, well, actually this is in some ways connected to what we've done in the past? Or did you go out with the idea of, we want to have a part 2 to make that connection? What was that like?
Well, as far as the one song I think you're talking about, 7 Moons, which is Galantia Part 2.
Exactly.
That the reason that wasn't on the first record is because they didn't, Russ didn't have the music all together. He either didn't have the music, or he didn't have the lyrics. I think he had the lyrics, but not the music.
Okay.
And so there's a whole story, 1, 2, 3, with Citadel, then 7 Moons, and then Wing of the Owl, and that's the whole story. But since he didn't have the music, we just put 1 and 3 on the first record, and ended up with 2 on the on this one.
Okay.
And to me it was like, I don't know, there was something cool about leaving a hole in the story, and
right.
And we could fill that in on the second record, and so that's. I mean, that's the story of how that it was just simply, it wasn't ready to go. And when you're making, when you're making albums, you only have, roughly 40 minutes, or, vinyl records.
Right.
Versus you only have 40 minutes. And so we were kind of run out of time as well, too, to put everything on the,
okay.
It would have been too many songs to put on an album.
Yeah. Okay. Well, sometimes it's a very straightforward, simple reason behind something. From my perspective, I've obviously had a chance to listen to the full album yet, and I'm so excited for the fans to discover it. I mean, we obviously shared some singles, but there's a lot of good stuff and some surprises waiting for the fans. For me, just after a few listens, Andrastea, I might be mispronouncing that, but for me is one of the standout songs that is really, get me going. I can only imagine that'll do really well live. Are you, given like it took a long time to get started with the recording, now the recording wasn't that long ago, but are you still too close to the material to kind of look in a very sober way, look at that as well, like, oh, this is going to work well live, this is one of my favorites, maybe we'll pass that one? Is that already possible for you to do right now, or just still too close to the creation of these songs?
I think, personally speaking, I think I'm still too close to it. Like you put your all into these songs,
right.
And and since we didn't really get to rehearse the songs that much before we went into the studio.
Right.
So basically, like Russ, I mean, we had sent emails back and forth and put demos together, and so we went in knowing what we were going to do. But it's just a different thing when you're all playing at one time, and so a lot of the recording, it was just like, like we're playing through, when you only have X amount of time in the studio. And so you're just trying to make it all happen, and you're concentrating on, hitting all of the right chords and the right notes and getting the stops in the right place and that kind of stuff. And so through all that, it's like, it's like song, like, and then all of a sudden, okay, all my drums are done. What did I just do?
Right,
so,
right.
So I'm just now like we have a record release show coming up in a couple of weeks, and I'm still kind of trying to learn the parts that I put down, like back then, because everything was just so quick, and you just had to get the job done. It's like now it's like it's like I want to internalize everything and get it to where I'm totally like feeling good with it, and I think not knowing the song's totally 100%, like I think that works well in the studio. I think it, and especially like Adrastea was one song where it was kind of like, I think we all felt like we're, it's fast, and we were all kind of hanging on by the seat of our pants, and it's like, oh, okay, we got to take, cool, and and then you move on, and so now it's time to get it to where it's going to feel comfortable playing live.
Since the previous record and everybody talking about you guys, and you guys came to tour in Europe and Germany and UK, like for you personally in that journey, like has there been like one big aha moment or like a big lesson that you learned in that in the last couple of years? I guess it's the last 4 or 5 years now.
I mean, I've been a professional drummer my entire life, and and while I'm from Texas, and I used to play a lot of blues, and I used to play country, and and I've done extensive touring all over America and played, like big shows, small, everything. And so it's new and different, the like to be actually in the metal scene, even though I kind of grew up listening to that, when you're trying to make a living playing drum, it's like I'll take any job that's out
Right.
there, and it's taken me down some exciting roads and some different roads than I would have expected. And this all of a sudden, like when I was first hired with Tanith, I was hired as a studio drummer. I wasn't like a member of the band, and that came later. But as far as an aha moment, I don't know if I would say that I had that. It's just, I mean, it's kind of gone as I expected it, like being on the road. It's just, it's just a different kind of crowd playing to a metal
Right.
crowd versus playing to a country music crowd or a blues crowd or whatever.
We survive. Gather your wits and the strength that you have. It's the will of the snow, tied in the strap.
One of my best friends is the financial director of Live Nation Canada, and I know for a fact that country shows and metal shows are the two most profitable kind of shows for Live Nation, because the most alcohol gets consumed at the stands. But besides so we know that both these crowds like to drink, but for you, who has now a lot of experience playing for both these different crowds, what's the biggest difference playing for these two crowds?
Well, I mean, that you bring that up, they're very similar in that way. I mean, like Tanith doesn't really get the mosh pit going, but that's something that never happened.
Not yet.
They haven't heard Adrastea yet.
Exactly.
I don't. Yeah, to me, the only difference is really the clothes.
Awesome.
I mean, like one group, has ball caps and cowboy hats, and the other ones have black T-shirts, and that's kind of like, I mean, that's been the cool thing about playing with a bunch of like in my life, and ended up in all these different areas playing. It's like you meet a bunch of different people that when you look at them, they look like totally different people. When you talk to them, they're the same.
Yeah.
You know, like people are pretty much the same everywhere. They just, you know, some have longer hair, you know, or more tattoos, and you know, but you just talk to anyone, and you know, and they're just good people. So it's I think there's more, the people are more the same than they are different.
So maybe this is an open invitation to all the metalheads to go to more country shows and all the country fans to come to more Tanith shows. And like I'm sure they all will do on your album release show on April 20th. And then we obviously want to see many show announcements. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for some dates in Canada here. And if not, more in Europe, and we'll go see you there. Keith, thank you so much for taking some of your time as you are learning these songs again to answer my questions. I'm super excited for the record to drop, and I really hope to see you guys on the stage again soon.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and yeah, and I hope that we can get on the road. Now, that'd be great to get into Canada and you know, and just get the music more out. You know, Europe, East Coast, West Coast, where, you know, I mean, you know, I love to play, and I want to get the, you know, I'm proud of the music, so I want to get it out there.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.